Hey everybody, welcome back to EDBEAT. I'm April Cummings. Joining me, of course, the fabulous Patrick Brendel from Cayman Current. Hey Patrick.
Hi April, how are you?
The lights are on, the internet's working. It is a very good day in my world, which also means it's a good day in your world too, so to speak. Of course, I hint to behind the scenes technical problems such as power outages, internet not working, and today we are back in full form. No fancy hairstyles today, good old fashioned headsets and microphones, and lots of great stuff to talk about on the education front. Oh man, I forgot to make my tea. This consistency thing, it's not going for me. So there is a lot to talk about. Okay, there really is. Patrick, let's kick things off with a bit about the resin bid grant that UCCI got and kind of what that signifies for the institution.
Oh, you faked me out. I thought we were doing another story first.
Oh, we were, but
So as our viewers and readers will recall, a couple weeks ago, UCCI announced that they had received a $405,000 CI dollar grant from the resin bead program, which is through funded by the European, and the award will go towards the college to select 50 unemployed Caymanians to participate in a year-long program to help train them in trades that are sustainable, both environmentally and economically. And so these would be areas such as renewable energy, sustainable construction, information communications technology, and tourism. So these are jobs that are very important to Cayman's current economy and going forward. Coincidentally, this kind of program and these kinds of trades are the subject, kind of the core subject of the Cayman Currents documentary Island Jobs, which we are still working on and happy to. And so we had the premiere a few weeks in Documentary Festival of the first of 5 episodes. And to give everybody kind of a sneak update, private update, insiders update on where we are.
Yes.
So episode 2 is in the production process right now, and I have the script for episode 3 in my hot little hands, and I plan on going through it today, tomorrow morning, to send back for revisions. So happy to say that we're rolling along more or less according to schedule. But speaking of island jobs and the resin bid grant, our journalist Kayla Young, who's the director and writer and everything,
she doesn't just do the island jobs, Patrick. She does all the jobs.
So she caught up with Paul Puckering, who's the UCCI's interim dean of professional and technical education and training division. So he'll be in charge of spending the money wisely with this grant. So Kayla caught up with Paul and sat him down for an interview that's folded in and made a part of our documentary. And Kayla was kind enough to edit a clip from the interview so that we could use it on EDBEAT.
And
I believe, April's got it uploaded. So roll that beautiful bean footage.
It's my favorite thing.
Friday, March 25th, the UCCI was very pleased to be a part of a momentous occasion because it was the announcement of a major grant of $405,000 CI dollars through RESENBID. RESENBID is a European grant funding agency which sought to support training for disadvantaged as well as their key thematic pillars of resilience and sustainability. The training is for 50 unemployed Caymanians who are underemployed, and it seeks to capture persons between ages 18 and 45 years old with a drive to have a good gender balance among the selected participants. What it will look at 4 key areas for training. You have renewable energy. As you know, the government has its energy policy and drive for cleaner Cayman 2037. And so that training is in keeping with that. We also will focus on ICT, information communication technology, as well as tourism management and sustainable construction. We want to ensure that those who are shortlisted really want to take advantage of this opportunity, because it's not just a training course to just complete, but it is geared towards certification. The courses will be tied to international certification, as well as the internship will be assigned with it, so that at the end of the program, we want these persons to be eligible for employment, because one of our outputs is to see how many persons after the training program have gained employment or secured part-time or full-time employment coming out of this training program.
Okay, so Paul really did give a good sense of what it's about and what they're planning to do. And I forgot about this earlier, actually. The unemployed versus underemployed. Underemployed would be folks who maybe have a few hours of work here and there or sporadic stuff, but nothing sort of consistent. Or unemployed people who aren't employed at all. So it's open to people who actually may have some work, but really haven't been able to get to that next stage where they're able to garner full-time employment.
Your lights go off, April?
No, my lights are back.
Oh, I have a black screen where your face should be.
Oh my goodness. Well, let me turn me off and on and see what happens. Here I am.
Oh, huh.
I don't know, but then you're going to have to imagine that you can see me now. The
Okay.
powers of not so live internet and TV. Okay, so we heard from Paul, and yeah, so we talked a little bit about underemployment, what the program is kind of about, and what it's going to do. And I did not realize that it was part of a potential certification process at the end. So I think that's interesting too. So it's not just here's some training, but let's get you really on the road to whatever you're going to do next in one of these fields.
Yeah, and I think for people who are interested in participating, UCCI is partnering with the government, with Workforce Opportunities Residency Cayman, and also with the private sector through the Chamber of Commerce to help identify the appropriate candidates. And the last time we heard, when UCCI made the announcement, they basically said, stay tuned when we'll release details of the application process. So I know on the current, we'll keep our stories updated as that information becomes available.
Very good. So the inspection reports, I call them, but really they're not, the last, 30 of them, 32, aren't really inspection reports, but they are visits from the Office of Education Standards to a lot of schools across the Cayman Islands. Patrick, you've been, the Current has been following this and doing, pieces all along the way. We're now kind of at the end of that. What's next?
Yes, I think at least I can, and maybe some of my readers will breathe a sigh of relief. From January to March, and OES, Office of Education Standards, inspectors conducted one-day thematic visits to public and private schools across the Cayman Islands. So they did 31 of these visits, but there's actually 32 reports because they looked jointly at UCCI and SciFed in terms of the dual enrollment program. So don't get confused if you count 32 reports on our website. So we've written stories on every single one of these reports. Building on that, we now have available on our website a roundup of all the OES reports on the thematic visits. And this is just kind of a central landing point for anybody who is interested in a particular school. Can scroll down, and we have links to our stories organized by the name of the school. And then if you keep going down further, we have links to all of the reports themselves, so you can don't have to go hunting for it on any website. So there's the part of our document library.
There, and I've fancily pulled it up on screen so you can see them. So you either can go to the link or you can go to the actual reports. So you mentioned this a couple of weeks back, and we wanted to sort of re-emphasize the point. Now that all these individual letters or reports, if you will, are posted and done, the current is working on an analysis of kind of what did we learn from them. So it's one thing to go school by school. You're focused on your school and kind of what its experience has been and trying to get takeaways from that. But are there any themes across the thematic visits that we saw across the board? And that's kind of where your emphasis is next in terms of your reporting. Is that right?
That's right. I think of it like kind of like building a pyramid. So we've spent a good amount of time going through each of the reports and writing what was said about each school. And now that we've got this this foundation of data and material, I can go back and look on stuff from a higher perspective and start drawing common threads or identifying outliers that the inspectors observed. Uh, for their part, the OES is going to be doing their own national report, and I'm sure they're working on that or getting it approved shortly. So when their national report comes out, that's also going to be something we're looking at. But from the current's perspective, we started doing a new series of stories looking at these reports from a comprehensive perspective. And so the first in the series, because I like to cheat sometimes, is actually the roundup of all the reports. The second story in the series we published, and it's about how local teachers have fared during the pandemic. And in a word, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And in many of the schools, that's public and private, small, big schools, primary, secondary. Many of the country's teachers say that the current workloads that they've been having to take on the past 2 years are not sustainable. Some of the extra duties that teachers have to do include having to teach online so they teach online in addition to teaching in person. Some of them have had to hold extra classes in the morning, night, even on the weekend, trying to tackle learning gaps that have developed in students who are in isolation. When other teachers are absent, they have to cover for their colleagues. Sometimes when their managers are absent, they have to step up and take on these administrative responsibilities. And it can even be something as simple as the yeoman's work of packaging and distributing lateral flow tests. And these are the teachers, and even I don't want to leave out other staff and support staff and the leadership. Everybody's been having to do more during the pandemic. And then if you think about that in in connection with they're trying to improve their own technological skills, so they're trying to upskill themselves in terms of digital learning and all the tools that they're using. They're working to implement school level improvement initiatives, which can be based on previous inspection reports. So even though they're managing the immediacy during the pandemic, they're also trying to continue improving the school as a whole. And they've got to focus on the mental well-being of their students. And then in the whole context of this, they as people are dealing with their own wellness issues, and they're dealing with their own, maybe they have had to deal with COVID or other illnesses, or people within their households dealing with it as well. So it's been a lot of extra work and a lot of extra stress for our teachers.
And we're not talking private or public school either. We're talking, both. Both government and private schools have been dealing with this, and some, groups have fared better than others. But this is a theme that we've seen across, almost every one of the reports.
Yeah, and I will also point out that, principals and school leaders, from the beginning, they knew this was going to happen. So a lot of them been doing their best to try to help their teachers out, whether that's trying to hire additional support staff or recruit new teachers to cover absences, having offering mental wellness support through the school counseling staff or outside, even things like holding throwing employee outings and gatherings and get-togethers for them, just so they can let their hair down for a bit and relax. But even despite those best efforts, it is taking a mental toll on them. for example, St. Ignatius Catholic School, out of all the schools that were looked at this term, they were the one school that they identified. The inspectors said they identified significant enough issues that they forwarded a note of concern onto the ministry. One of the things that they were concerned about is the staff. And according to this was from the chief inspector, he said during the visit, staff reported feeling burnt out, exhausted, and requiring counseling support. But as I said, it's not just St. Ignatius. So even at Clifton Hunter, which got generally positive reviews from their visit, the staff felt well supported by the senior leadership team, but expressed they were feeling exhausted. In Lighthouse School, teachers said they were beyond exhausted.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I thought it was interesting at Georgetown Primary School, where the staff they said that the country needs what they call the National Parent Association to help
Interesting.
take the pressure off teachers in terms of providing support to parents and families of students during a pandemic or crisis, because they found that not only were the teachers having to support their students, but they were also having to give support to the family members as well. So they were hoping, for some sort of association or initiative to mention. But
I mean, I can say it took a lot of time on the teacher's end dealing with me trying to understand what I needed to do and not do. And I allegedly have some background in education, right? So, having some infrastructure outside of, it's not just academic support either, too. It's sometimes suddenly I know that my kid's doing this, this, and this with me, and then I find out they're doing that at school too. And the teacher really doesn't have time to help me work my way through it. They're trying to work through theirs with their other 30-something kids, or whatever it may be. So I can definitely see why something like that makes sense. And I'm surprised I hadn't really heard that come up too much previously.
Yeah, and another thing that's been pressures on the teachers is a lot of the teachers have been, just like everybody, they've ended up in isolation with COVID infection. And so schools are scrambling to find, I forget what they call them, but in American, they call them substitute teachers. So substitute teachers are in high demand and short supply. And then again, other teachers have chosen to leave Cayman, just whether it's normal turnover or issues related to the pandemic. But so teachers leave, so schools are also having to find permanent replacement for staff vacancies. And a lot of the schools said they were having a lot of difficulties attracting teachers to the island, especially given the high cost of living in Cayman. And but that hasn't been universally the case. So on the one side, I'd say about I should do the math on this, but I haven't. I say 80 to 85% of the schools, the teachers, the inspectors noted that the teachers were exhausted and feeling overwhelmed. And a subset of that said they were having difficulty hiring. But there were a few examples where whether it's due to management being able to plan effectively, or if the school might have more resources, or if it's just, I don't want to say luck, but just individual circumstances to a school. Some schools reported not having problems with that. So, for example, at John Cumber School and the public school in West Bay, the teachers did not report feeling overstretched by additional duties. So they said they got it. At Footsteps, which is a private school in the Georgetown, the teachers said the school leaders were very supportive of their well-being, and they had few absences due to COVID among the teaching staff. And the school leaders said they didn't have any problem recruiting new staff. And then also at Island Montessori, said they had success recruiting teachers throughout the pandemic, and they were even looking to expand their primary education provision So not only were they able to handle with some of the gaps presently, but they're looking to grow to expand the school.
So just a variety of different things having occurred, if that makes good sense. All right. So I was thinking a little bit about, while you were talking, I was thinking a little bit about the,
Thinking a little bit about
some of the
something
reasons.
else.
No, I was thinking, life circumstances do change quite a bit for people too. So when you have something like a high stress situation, like a pandemic, so I know a few teachers who were very happy living and working in Cayman, but all of a sudden their elderly parents live somewhere else, and the pandemic sort of shifted the priorities, and they said, yep, I love you guys, but I got to go take care of my family, for example. So there were just, I was literally thinking, yeah, there's a bunch of different reasons that motivate some of the change. As you said, some might be normal turnover, but the stresses of something like a pandemic can create that shift in where you're focusing in either direction. I know some folks who decided, life's too short. I'm going to go work in the Caribbean for a couple of years. So it's just, for me, it's interesting how differently people may respond to the same sort of pressures, and how it can both be an opportunity, in some respects, but in other ways a challenge. So, I'm interested as to what lessons we learn from this going forward from our school infrastructure standpoint. And a point to something you said earlier too, Patrick, don't let me forget, the fact that teachers have had to juggle so many different things, upskilling themselves, learning how to teach in this multiple approaches. That's not an easy thing to have to do quickly. It's a lot of pressure.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned lessons learned going forward, because actually in each of the reports from the inspectors, they have a section that's called things we've done during COVID that we're going to keep doing going forward. So that's actually going to be one of the subjects of one of my stories, either this week or next week.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's great. And by collating it that way too, it makes it a bit easier for everybody to learn from everybody else in what they found worked and what didn't work. So I'm going to rearrange our order just for a second before I forget, because I want to end on your other note.
On the note. Very good.
Note. You're so funny. But I also have a somewhat musically related subject. I have our latest classroom of the month, which I would like to share for the very first time right here on EDBEAT, if I can figure out how to hit the play button. So bear with me for 2.5 seconds. This focuses on Jubilati. I know, Jubilati. It's a great program that combines sort of it's an after school program, but it combines both music and learning. Now let's see, I wish I could do a drum roll, but I don't know how to do the drum roll. So I'm just gonna click the wrong buttons a couple times before I do this. And then I'm gonna hit play, and it's just gonna be amazing. Okay, here we go, Patrick, ready?
1, 2, 3, 4, and
we play music. It's really fun.
longer notes.
Doing music is fun.
That wasn't bad at all. Go.
On the most basic level, Jubilate is an after-school program. So we bring the kids to Jubilate every day from 8 different schools, and music is kind of the way we draw them in.
Very good.
So we are a music after-school program, but we focus on a lot more than that. We're teaching these kids life skills that are going to be important as they grow up to continue to develop into constructive members of society.
Nice. Pam, pam.
How to articulate their thoughts, how to carry themselves, kind of sit up straight and speak confidently, believing in themselves and that they deserve good things and that they have talents. So Jubilate is a very well-rounded program that we teach music, but we also teach lots of different life skills and strong discipline as well.
Hold it now, everybody.
We use the music to have the kids being a part of the program, but we take care of their needs in terms of academic needs. So we have where they have a homeroom.
Half of 10 is 5.
We also take time to teach them some basic human morals and principles, how to deal with each other, their fellow men, and how to even deal with each other as kids, and how to solve disagreements. So we look at that.
Do you understand now?
Sometimes it gets hard while I'm playing the violin because the strings, it hurts my fingers, but I get used to it.
I actually love coming here because here at Jubilate, they treat everyone like family. there's always someone to help build you up.
Very good.
Since I came here at Jubilate, my grades actually got a lot higher here. Since I start coming here, I'm getting a lot of A's, and I'm actually doing very well.
When you're playing a song perfectly, it's the best feeling ever. Cause before you couldn't play it properly, but now you learn to play it properly, and it sounds amazing.
And now.
What I would love for people to know about Jubilate is what a unique experience these kids are having. Many of them come to us having never picked up a musical instrument before. And they're learning so many critical skills while learning this art as well. And that's something that nobody can take away from them. And maybe they keep it as a hobby or make a career out of it.
Now.
Or study music in university. But their musical abilities and kind of comfort with their instrument is something that they're going to be able to have for the rest of their lives.
Nice.
Shamelessly, I play my own piece in EDBEAT this week.
Well, I thought it was great.
I love it very much, but I also
like
love
to see kids
every
having
single
fun.
class.
The kids looked happy.
They did, and kids can sometimes get kind of camera shy at times. So they're talking a mile a minute, and then you put the camera on, and they're suddenly very silent. I can't remember anything, but these kids did great, and some of them are really quite skilled at the instruments as well. So the music and the homework combination, it kind of seems to keep them motivated and inspired. So it was really kind of nice to see that. And it's still a bit challenging to run any kind of program in Cayman right now. We still have a lot of rules about what we can and can't do because of COVID. And so, trying to manage that and still provide fun and exciting and interactive opportunities for kids is something that I'm always like, whoo, shout out. So my thanks to Cayman First Insurance for making it possible. And that leads us nicely into another item that Patrick and I would like to talk about, which is very exciting and also musically inclined.
Yes, speaking of talented young musicians, congratulations are in order to St. Ignatius Catholic School student Sean Moran, who's 14 years old, and he's a guitarist. And he's been named the Butterfield Young Musician of the Year, which is really the kind of the annual competition that Cayman holds with the multiple rounds, and it's really a great achievement. And also shout out to Louis Barombi, who plays the saxophone and is from John Gray High School, and he was the runner-up. So they had the finals. It would pit the eight top instrumentalists from the National Children's Festival of the Arts pre-competition. So there were multiple rounds to the competition. Final 8 came in, and Sean and Louis came out 1-2. I did 8 finalists, was unable to make it. So
Yeah.
maybe that happens. Yeah, but maybe next year. I don't know how they are, but maybe now I'll get them next year.
I'll get them next year. Also, that the National Children's Festival of the Arts is also the subject of another Classroom of the Month that will be debuting soon. And it's been really, really great to have so many of these kinds of programs going on. So the Classroom feature does traditionally focus on a classroom, but not necessarily. It could be any program that helps kids improve their skills, their learning, shows progress. And I like, maybe because I'm a fidgeter by nature, Patrick, oh, look, he did it right. Dracula. Because I'm a fidgeter by nature, I learn better when I'm also getting to do things. It makes it a bit easier for me to, sit down and do the writing part. So it's been really fun. And by the way, the musicians, even the ones who didn't make it to the Young Musician of the Year, there were a lot of really talented young people in Cayman. It's really kind of exciting and fun.
Yeah, and I'll correct myself now. There were 9 finalists, and one couldn't make it. So there were 8 in the final. Sorry, but I really like these kind of competitions, especially whether it's music or sports or anything spelling bees, because Cayman is so small. And I think sometimes parents and students can forget about it, and you can get really absorbed into what's going on in your own class or your own grade or your own school. But to me, it's like in the robotics competitions and stuff. It's really positive to kind of
Bring everybody together.
Yeah, you leverage the population that we do have, and kids from lots of schools coming together and competing in a positive way. Can be really motivating because maybe you're the best. Your first chair violin or something in your school, and blah blah blah, and then you go and you see another kid, and you go, "Oh man, they're really good. I got to work harder." So
Challenges you, motivates.
and I think also, it's like a stepping stone or a doorway into the Caribbean-wide musical contest. So, you like to see kids getting the opportunity to learn and to showcase their hard work on as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So I'm always interested in these things.
Yeah, me too. And plus, it's also fun to watch the kids too. They're just interesting beings all on their own. So before we wrap things up this week, is there anything we forgot to mention because I rearranged things while we were talking?
No, we got it.
Yes. I can't read my own handwriting, people, so there's often issues related to what did I just tell him we were going to do. So we should be back next week, barring any problems with, forces of nature and internets. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to have some guests on again soon because there's so much to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, we got several interview requests out to folks, and kind of the timelines where they said they'd be able to do it are approaching. So now it's time to harass and bother, annoy.
and irritate just a little bit. Also, for those of you whose kids are in the middle or the beginning of the exams processes, like the IGCSEs and whatnot, yes, you have my sympathies because apparently when the kids are studying, I'm studying too. So it's a tense time for the parents and the kids. But we're really proud of the work that you guys have done this year, and don't stress too much about the tests. Life is more than a test. It's a lot of tests. Anyway, have a great week, everybody.